because initially I couldn't figure out what in the world is wrong with Betty, and it was very minimal progressive to begin with. It would seem like, here, I'm telling you something, don't you remember what I told you 10 minutes ago? And of course she didn't, but I thought she was just tuning me out. You know, husbands and wives do that. But then it got to the point where she would just stay downstairs for hours, and sometimes a day and a half before she'd even get up out of bed.
One of the things that I remember now that that we are talking about early signs, I remember how embarrassed I was by certain things that he had said, and this was like a year before his being diagnosed. Something really, really embarrassing to a friend that I just couldn't believe. You know, something very prejudicial. I don't even want to repeat it. And I remember telling Dad, I mean, Dad, you just don't say that. You just don't say that. And he was like, what? You know, it's like, I don't understand. I was like talking to a wall. Like, he couldn't figure out that there was anything wrong in what he had said. From that point on, I started paying more attention to signs, and I started seeing that he was getting confused with things that I was doing at home. You know, one day, he put an entire metallic pot in the microwave.
She had thyroid cancer, and my sister was taking good care of her. Everything was working well. She started getting a little dementia, and my sister was dealing with it well, and then she had a stroke. So she couldn't do it. So she said, well, you have to take Mom in. And I said, well, it's not a problem, you know. I'm blessed to do this, but it's also overwhelming. I never thought I would, you know, need somebody from the outside to come in and give me a break.
What I see is a lot of caregivers that are very isolated in their homes. They've been taking care of somebody for often several years and pretty much felt like they could handle things. But as we know, after a couple years of providing care, particularly to somebody who has a memory problem, the demands on the caregiver grow continuously, and often they end up becoming ill because they're no longer paying attention to their own needs.
That constant care, you find little things start to irritate you. And you get a sense of, I don't know how to put it. You've lost control of your own life. You're not making decisions anymore. Circumstances are making decisions for you. And you resent that.
That feeling, that perception, again, that my loved one is kind of taking advantage of me a little bit, doing too much, and there's a strain in that relationship. Knowing, too, that there may have been a strain ahead of time. There's the objective burden, that feeling of you know, what happened to the rest of my life? I'm not having any fun. I don't have time with my wife. It's cutting into my job. It's just interfering.
Somewhere behind these doors, a family member, often alone, is taking care of a loved one with Alzheimer's or some other disability, or providing care for a loved one who is not ill, but only aging and no longer able to care for him or herself. In the field of caregiving, this is the home front, for the home is where most Americans will live out their last days. From all across Washington, caregivers, in their own words, want to share their stories so that you too can understand the long and often difficult days of the family caregiver, as well as the hope and help no further than one phone call away.
Well, if I had a friend who was in the same situation that we were in the beginning, I would say, let me make a phone call for you, and then I'll give you the number and see if you can't get some advice from Elderly Services, because they're wonderful. And I feel like I'm probably sane today because of their inviting me to go to the support group. And, you know, when you're dealing with something that's really too heavy to deal with, you don't want to call in help. And that's kind of where you get, you're independent right up to a certain day, and then all of a sudden you're overloaded. And you think, oh, I can do this, I can manage this, and then you're it's way out of your element before you know it.
What happened was, I was going to commit suicide. Because I'd had enough. And somehow or another got a hold of Bob Poindexter, Adult and Aging Care, and they stepped in.
Have you seen pictures of the Alzheimer's brain? The brain just kind of separates itself from its other parts and just shrivels up like a cabbage that's dying without water. And you look at that in the picture and say, oh, no wonder that happened. And so I've gotten to the place now, I don't know, in the caregiving thing, I don't know, they're all those caregiving jobs are so bad, and it takes such a strong person. That's why we came up with this idea, because this young lady you'll meet a little later, I found out from her psychiatrist that she was thinking about suicide.
Because you see a lot of seniors, and you see them struggling, and you see them struggling in the supermarkets or whatever, and they're having a hard time. Fortunately, in our case, I am a lot younger than Henry, so the maneuverability for me, but if we were both that age, where would we be? And if we wanted to stay in our home, where would we be without the help of aging and long-term care? I really think that needs to be, it needs to be out there, whether it's the paper or the TV or an article in the magazine or somewhere. It needs to be there that people know of this service. It's been a godsend for me, a blessing, an absolute blessing.
If I know that somebody else is suffering somewhat with me, that makes my load a lot lighter, because at least now I can say, oh, wow, I'm not by myself. I'm not the only one going through this. And the lady that I'm talking about, she told me one day, she said, I've been doing this for 6 years. You know, you're the only person that's come into my house in 6 years.
But getting back to Bob's organization, I feel that if it hadn't been for him and what he has done for me, I wouldn't be here today.
To see more videos or find help with your caregiving challenges, visit www.agingwashington.org.